So here in the far northeast, specifically New York and New England, timber rattlesnakes brumate, which is a form of reptile hibernation between mid-October and late April or early May at communal den sites. Now, it is possible to observe timber rattlesnakes basking between November and March, but overall it is considered rare behavior and usually only occurs during a stretch of very mild, if not record temperatures. So you can imagine my surprise while visiting a New York den site on November 7, when the temperature was only 48 degrees, not to mention the morning's low was a frosty 28 degrees, that I found 10 rattlesnakes on or near the surface. And to think I had only visited the site to shoot some B-roll for a future video. But now I was questioning whether these reptiles were more cold tolerant than I thought, or was this an anomaly? So at this site, I decided to set up a trail camera angled just above the main den entrance for the following week. The weather for the next several days was forecasted to be mild for November, with temperatures ranging from the mid-50s to the low 60s before cooling off by the end of the week. Despite the predicted mild weather, we were headed for mid-November, and I didn't expect more than a couple of snakes to be captured on the trail camera. But then again, I didn't expect to find a single snake when the temperature was only a chilly 48 degrees. Well, let's see what the footage revealed. So check this out. The day after setting up the camera was a mild one, and it first began with this black timber rattlesnake venturing out, followed by a juvenile just 10 minutes later, soon to be joined by 3 more juveniles. A couple of hours later, a second adult rattlesnake contemplates crawling out to bask, but decides the conditions are not inviting enough and retreats back into the den. Meanwhile, the rattlesnake that ventured out first remains outside the den until at least 20 minutes post-sunset before magically turning into a mouse. Kidding aside, my trail cameras have revealed just how abundant rodent prey are near or even inside timber rattlesnake dens. More on that in a future video. November 9 was a very warm day, and this juvenile timber emerged in the morning to take advantage of it. By early afternoon, 3 individuals can be seen near the den's entrance. And less than 15 minutes later, 2 adults begin emerging simultaneously, while the juveniles have done a disappearing act. Only minutes later, however, one of the juveniles reappears. Here, one of the adults has completely emerged, revealing that it is the same snake from the previous day, which had stayed out until after sunset. And perhaps it is no surprise this was the last footage captured by the camera on this day. November 10 is a bit cooler than the last couple of days, but would still be considered the 3rd day of a mild stretch, ultimately coaxing out the most amount of rattlesnakes for the week, and by midday, multiple snakes begin emerging. These 2 adults should look familiar from previous footage, especially the darker one seen in the foreground. Just before 1 p.m., more snakes begin emerging. Notice the one to the far left. Over the next 20 minutes, the snakes continue to reveal themselves until a total of 9 can be seen. Now, this is a large den, and these snakes represent just a small percentage of the total, documenting that November basking is indeed rare. However, not as uncommon as I have thought up until now. Our autumns have been getting milder, which certainly makes me wonder if late-season basking is more prevalent today compared to a century ago. On a side note, even though November is cooler compared to earlier in the fall season, many timber rattlesnake dens actually receive more sunlight because the surrounding trees have shed most, if not all, of their leaves for the season, and could explain why comparable temperatures in late October, when there is more shade-producing foliage, may actually yield less snakes. From a research perspective, trail cameras are a less invasive way to observe these reptiles. Moreover, how cool is it to observe their behavior when no humans are around? Okay, moving on. The following day, the 11th, was cooler and only this juvenile was captured on film. On the 12th, it rained and there were no snakes. November 13th was dry but relatively cool, and only 2 snakes were caught on film, this juvenile and adult seen on the far left. Okay, concluding with the 14th, which was chilly, breezy, with increasing clouds. Yet surprisingly, this juvenile decides to venture out. This footage was captured only minutes before I arrived on scene to collect the memory card from the trail camera. I walked up to the den quickly, not expecting any snake to be out. Sound familiar? And I felt bad that I frightened this little guy back into the den. although it was becoming overcast and it wouldn't have remained out much longer. Well, that is a wrap for what I consider was a pretty revealing November week in rattlesnake country. Until next time, thanks for watching and please consider subscribing.